right, so um, what we're going to dive into, I'm going to briefly talk about kind of my background, my history, which is uniquely um, fit for uh, the first ladies and kind of the experience I had that really helped and is helping with our growth. We'll talk a little bit about the TPL's history as well. I'll refer to the first ladies as TPL a lot, just for the sake of it's a lot easier to say. And then just dive into the growth that we've had, and then open it up for questions and answers session at the end. And honestly, if you have questions throughout, please just go ahead and ask, and I'm more than happy to answer them, because they'll probably be a little bit more topical and relevant as we're on that particular slide. So there's that. So my background, I have that lovely little logo right there is a logo for my company called Blue Fusion Media. So I run an advertising and marketing agency, and I've been in the marketing and for 17 years now. I've been managing clients. For the first 3 years were a lot of learning, and then the last 14 years have been managing clients either in-house, direct, or in-house, like truly as I'm as close as I can without being on top of my desk. So I've tried to increase the quality of the sound, but I could try and talk louder.
I think that's great, Chris, if you talk a little bit louder. Yeah.
I'll talk a little bit louder and a little slower.
Perfect.
Hopefully, and project a little bit better for you guys. So my background with the marketing advertising agency is 14 years at it, helping a lot of small medium-sized businesses. And the reason I put Lady Boss Weight Loss on there, they were a women's weight loss brand that I was managing in 2018, 2019. I was their VP of advertising. We were spending $1 million a month on ads. They were number 4 overall, but they were the number 1 fastest growing consumer products company in the country, privately held. Right. So it was insane growth, went from 11 employees to 125 employees in like 18 months. Okay. So explosive growth. So I've been in environments where we're spending a lot of money on ads. We got big payrolls. We have all these things that really culminate in a environment that foster growth, right? And so having done that, I've also been over the last 5 to 7 years really heavily in the women's world, women's fashion brands, women's clothing brands, women's weight loss. So a lot of my experience over the last 5 to 7 years is really tuning into that market and learning a lot about it. Now, the company was founded in 2010 by a couple of sisters, Elena and Arlie. Elena being the spearhead of that, and they really started, out of their garage. Started on eBay. I was going to put a screenshot here of the eBay account, and it actually shows January of 2011. So 13 years. I mean, it's been around a long time, right? And so they built a really solid foundation for me. And so about 9 months ago, 10 months ago, I actually purchased TPL. And so that's where kind of it all started for me. I bought a business that had this foundation. This is the store. We have a retail store in Boca Raton, Florida. We are opening up a couple stores here in Jacksonville, Florida, where I'm based, over the next 6 months. And then probably from there, we'll do one more location sometime next year, probably in West Palm Beach. And then from there, who knows? But they built an amazing foundation, an amazing culture, and an amazing brand. So when I came in, they already had some social media. They had a little, Instagram account. They had the TikTok account. But there were a lot of things they didn't have. They didn't have email. They didn't have SMS marketing, text message marketing. The website, while it was good, it was on Shopify. It wasn't amazing. It wasn't great. It didn't have any SEO marketing. And so there wasn't consistency on the marketing and sales front. to drive interest, foot traffic, etc., into the store. Okay. And so that leads to kind of my area of expertise, right? With the advertising, the marketing, etc. So I came in and really realized that TikTok was an area of opportunity for us. So when I was actually in the process of buying the business, they just started launching this beta program for consignment and luxury handbags market. That's handbags in particular, leather goods, Louis, Gucci, Hermes, which is my favorite, um, Dior, etc. Is about 80-85% of our sales. Clothing, jewelry is probably the other 15%. Um, Clothing, I was like wanting to get rid of clothing altogether because of so much of the sales is on handbags. But if you guys remember this thing called COVID, the reason that the store was able to actually stay open during that time period was because of the clothing, right? That was clothing being deemed a necessity. And so it helped the store stay open so that they could work. And obviously they put parameters and protocols in for safe distancing and all that stuff at the time. But uh, it allowed them to maintain that base of clients, etc. And so they ultimately culminated in the TikTok beta program that they rolled out probably about a year and a half ago. And they were one of the first ones that got approved for the beta and had some success. So while I was closing on it, they were starting to do TikTok. When I took over in September last year, we weren't really doing a whole lot at that time because it was slow season. You guys know, right? Like, depending on where you are in the located, but if you're in the South, we have a lot of snowbirds. So end of May through mid October is our off season, right? And so during the off season, they were playing around with it, but they had other things they needed to focus on. And so it wasn't very big. It was like, 2, 3, 4, 5 grand a month, TikTok, go live, do, the modern day, QVC, HSN kind of style social selling. And so I was like, hey, listen, like in my experience, one of the things I've learned is a saying I say to my team, I say, small hinges swing big doors. And so one of my key skills, even though it's marketing and sales, is really to identify what's the lowest hanging fruit that's going to give us the biggest bang for time, energy, and effort. And so TikTok seems so obvious to me. It's like, man, like all we have to do is show the bags and people watch us and if they like it, they buy it. And the answer was yes. So in October, we lost like 3 employees in the first 60 days. And so we didn't have a lot of time and energy or effort to be able to put into that. And so it was a little slow in October, but I was like, hey, we need to do this. But we were getting inconsistent results. And so like we need to hire some people, which I'll get into hiring here in a bit. So we hired more people and we started to see momentum on the platform. So we went from 8,000 in sales to 16,000 in sales. And in December, it says 44. It was really 76. But I was using the stats they gave me. These are payouts. These aren't gross sales. These are actually what TikTok paid us. January was 121 and then February was 128. We've been somewhere between 125, 135 net sales. Doesn't factor in any refunds or people canceling orders, which is pretty popular on TikTok. Buyer's remorse is a real thing on that platform. And so we've been that's a significant amount of sales, right? Like most businesses, you don't do that total. And we've been able to do that just off of one platform. So if I highly advise that if you do sell bags of any kind on a consignment or any clothing's very big on the platform as well. You need to go on there and style them. Poshmark obviously is a really good platform too to go live on. That's actually the next big platform we're going to go live on and start building audience on, as well as Whatnot. That's our next big initiative. But I have literally, we have 23 employees and 8 of them are focused on TikTok. 8. So a third of my staff. Now, it's also a third of my sales. So it's like, my hiring has matched exactly to the time, energy, and effort that we've put in to it. As you'll see here, we've also had some growth. Well, I'll give context. We've had growth on our social platforms as well. So the bottom left is our TikTok. We're about almost 15,000 followers on that. When we started or when I took over, it was less than 3,000. We had 2,800, 2,900. So, we've grown, that's 5 times growth, right, in 10 months, right? So that's been a big, big part. Now going live is a big part of that. The first lady's, the main IG account was at about 19,000. The video that I have up in the background was a semi-viral post. We have the screenshots are overlaid, but there's like 6,000 likes on it, over 100 and some plus comments for a local business that's pretty viral for us. And so we ended up roughly about 4,000 or 5,000 new followers just from that one video. So the growth from 19 to 26 really came mostly from this one video, which is pretty phenomenal. It's just a walkthrough video of the store, how we operate, how we go about doing our consignment, which we don't actually do consignment. Little side note, we are a board store, so we're a buyout right. We might consign one or two like higher end Hermeses from time to time, but right now with our current allotment and our current assortment, we already have 20 plus higher end bags that sell for 15 or 20K plus, so we really don't need to consign right now. But we've had growth all the way around on all social platforms, right? And this is forgetting about Facebook. Like we do IG lives too. We haven't forgot about IG. IG lives is a nice little chunk of performance for us. We'll do 5,000 to 10,000 in sales on an IG live because it promotes, it basically simulcasts our IG crowd and our Facebook crowd at the same time, which is really, really nice. But this has been a really, really big win for us, to basically go from nothing to, $1.5 million to $2 million a year. Now, we also get trickle across traffic, right, to our website. We get trickle across traffic for locals who come in store. So while the sales have just been on platform, we do get off platform sales naturally, right? So somebody sees us, they then research us, they realize we have a site, they realize that, hey, we can actually probably get a little bit better deals. We don't do sales tax, and TikTok does do sales tax, so people will come to our site knowing buyers on our site instead of directly on TikTok. So the true net on sales has been substantial just from the growth on going live more often and posting obviously more often on our stories, etc. So any questions? I don't know if we have any comments on social. I could talk about social growth all day. But it's been a big part, of the time, energy, and effort that we put in, and also the staffing. We have a full-time person who's dedicated for Instagram. We have 2 full-time team leads in 2 locations. We have a TikTok studio in Jacksonville. We have 5 full-time people who help run that one. And then we have about 4 full-time, well, 1, 2, 3. We have 2 full-time people, and then we have about 5 people that help out part-time across the staff to help out with TikTok down at the store. So any questions in and around, I guess, TikTok, live selling, social growth overall, like any thoughts, questions from anyone?
This is great, Chris. One question that might be helpful for this audience is, what common mistakes do you think businesses make when they're implementing social selling strategies, and how do you think they can avoid them?
I think the biggest, there's probably a little different response, is I think the number one mistake is people don't take it seriously. And so they don't post consistently enough, right? Consistency is key. That's how we've grown, right? So when we were inconsistent, we got inconsistent results. Like in the beginning, I have like this little persona. I'm known as Mr. Purse, right? Like I have that domain. I have those handles on Instagram and TikTok. I'm known as Mr. Purse, right? So I get decked out to the nines. I actually ran and did shows with just like a really nice button down like this versus being like dressed up to the nine, like, sport coat, pocket square, nice overall outfit with nice, amazing, I love shoes. So I say amazing shoes, like a whole look. My sales were substantially different. How you show up when you're selling your items needs to be on brand, and also if you're selling high-end stuff, you need to show up high-end, right? I can't show up with, some people can, I've seen it. You show up in cutoff jeans and a wife beater. I can't do that. I wouldn't do that. It's just not a good look for me. But that matters. I saw a question around, so that's the overall thing, is consistency. When we actually hired staff to actually consistently go live, your job, I want you to go live. I know it's painful. Sometimes there's not enough audience. Turn it off, turn it back on. That's actually a strategy. TikTok told us, hey, if you don't have a lot of audience, you're not getting a lot of sales after about an hour and a half, turn it off and restart the live. That helps a lot for us too. As far as the scheduling, so we move on to the question I saw. We actually have sessions. So I've really built out a really cadence. So we have a morning crew that goes live for 3 hours. They start at 10, they run to about 1:30. Okay. We have about a 30-minute gap where the next team goes live between 2 and 5 at the other location. And then now Wednesday through Saturday, we have a night team that'll go live sometime between 6 and 6:30, and they'll run into about 10. So we have 3 days a week, 4 days a week, Wednesday through Saturday, where we have morning, afternoon, and night crews. Okay. We actually have a second TikTok account that we're actually going to start going live from once they approve it, hopefully here within the next week, that we'll be able to go live from, so we can actually go live even more. But our goal is to go live about 40 to 50 hours a week total as a team, right? And so the store hours are 7 hours a day, 6 days a week. That's 42 hours. So we're live online trying to sell just as much as we are with our store hours. So if you make sense, like what's 135% growth? Well, 135% growth is more than double growth. It's like 2.35 times. So if you have $100,000 in sales and you're at $235,000 in sales, that's what that growth is, right? It's really 235, I guess, percent if you really want to call it that. But I take, the base out, right? So to have that growth, we've actually had to match that with live selling. So I know lots of stats. I know how much for every hour that we're live, I know how much revenue we generate. I know roughly how much profit margin on platform it is. I know roughly based on the amount of people that I have on staff in that day, roughly what my profit margin is going to be based on the projected sales for that particular day of the week. Like I have these stats that help me guide. So I know for us, we make about $800 per hour that we're live, right? So if I know that, and that's in top line sales, it's not margin, it's in top line sales. So the question is if I want to do $250,000 a month in sales strictly on platform, that means how many hours do I need to back that out to? Well, it's about 300 to 320 hours a month. And right now we're only doing 50 a week. So that's about 200. So I'm about 120 hours short. So how do I figure out how to do that? It's either more people or a better scheduling process with the existing team. And it's probably a mixture of both, right? So everything to me, I have this saying, another saying, it's called the path is math. I reverse, like whatever my goal is, I reverse engineer backwards what I'm trying to accomplish. So if I need to hit $100,000 in sales, okay, what's my average order value, either in store or online? And then I figure out how many more hours or time or energy needs to be put into that particular task to do it. So we played around with different times. Like our morning time slot is one of our more painful time slots, right? Like it's weird, like 10 to 1 o'clock, like you're really like, are you really going to sell? People are at work, but today, before I hopped on, we already had 2,000 in sales in the first hour and a half, right? So that's above the $800 an hour. And that's the average, right? So morning slots probably only like $500 an hour. But if my gross profit margin is 50%, that's still decent. It's $250 an hour net. And as long as my operational cost of people per hour is not $250 an hour for 2 hosts who are getting paid, let's say $20 or $25 an hour. So I'm paying $50 an hour to the staff for every hour that they're live. As long as I can do $100 to $150 in sales, I'm good. And everything else is gravy, right? For the most part. I don't know if there's other costs and stuff involved, but that's the way I look at it. I look at it, if I can at least break even the first month or two of doing this particular initiative, that's a home run. I don't care what anybody says. Like if you're above break even, that's amazing. But if you can break even on a new initiative and consistency, and that's where that's probably my biggest thing. I have a high risk tolerance. So I'm willing to go out and hire a bunch of people because I know that, again, I have stats to back it up. I know if we go live, we're going to do this. So if I just have somebody in the spot and I'm paying them a certain amount out per hour or salary, that they're not only going to pay for their position, but I'm actually going to be able to make profit from that person's time, energy, and effort, right? So sorry if I rambled on about that. I can talk, that's literally how my brain focuses on social growth. It's literally the mechanism of how my brain thinks is like, what can we do to consistently show up and just, make luxury attainable? That's my goal. Is I want to make luxury attainable for people, in the secondhand market. And so, yeah, any other questions pop in that I missed?
That was great. We do have one more question from Christy. So she shared, to launch on TikTok, you have to have a minimum number of followers, around 5,000, if she recalls correctly. How does a new business build followers on TikTok or Instagram? Short and frequent videos? Question mark.
Yeah, good question. So my answer is actually going to be in my next slide. So this is a great segue. I think it's the next slide. Okay, actually, I want to talk about team growth, and I'll get to that question because it's actually coming up. Okay. So team growth. So this is LinkedIn. So I actually pay like $10 to $25 a day in ads for my job listings. And so you can see here, retail and online social selling associate, TikTok shop coordinator. I have a leather worker position, bag restorer to like touch up bags. I've got night shift in here. So like, I'm not making this stuff up. I'm not, putting fluff out here that I'm not actually doing when I say that I'm doing. Like I paid $250 to hire somebody. It's better than going and hiring like a recruiting agency 15 or 20% of somebody's salary, right? If I'm paying somebody 40 grand a year, I'm paying $6 grand to hire that person when I could just pay 250 from LinkedIn. Here's why you want to do, little side note, little nugget here, and why I shared this, is you want to do LinkedIn over Indeed or ZipRecruiter because the quality of the candidates are going to be much higher. Okay, I'll say that again. Use LinkedIn over any other platform when trying to hire because it's going to be way better in quality of candidate. You're going to pay more, but you're also going to have a way higher quality of candidate. Like about it, some of these jobs are, 20 to 30. There's one that has 143 applicants. If I do the same job on Indeed, I probably get a cheaper cost per applicant, but they're trash. They're just not good. They're just like, people are one-click applying to jobs that they have no business applying to, right? Because of the one-click apply button. Okay. And so I do LinkedIn to get rid of kind of the riffraff a little bit in the spam applicants. And I actually haven't done an Indeed ad all year. Because it's gotten so bad. It's basically gotten career builder level from the mid 2000s. Like it's just not good anymore. So I stay on LinkedIn. So there's that. Actually, I'm going to jump ahead to answer the question around growth, and then I'll hop back to SMS and email. So I actually, that's a great question. So TikTok actually just changed it to 5,000 followers. It used to be 1,000 followers about a month ago. And so that's the problem I think we're having with our second account is that 1,300. So we have the Purse Ladies Jacks, which is our second account. It's at 1,300 followers. Now, most of those followers, I would say, well, 300 are probably from people who see us live and we're commenting on our live saying, hey, follow us. And about 1,000 are from paid ads. So you can see here that a follower campaign Jacksonville, I paid $654. What I don't have here is a screenshot of how many followers that basically attributed to. It's a different, I have the shop ads selection here selected. But that $654 yielded about, I think it was about followers. So I paid, what did I pay? 70 cents a follower, 60 cents a follower. So you're going to have to pay to play. Like to get the 5,000 followers, you could do organic, but it's going to take forever. And then you're losing out because of opportunity cost, right? Like every month that goes by is the revenue that you're not generating. It's not the buyers that you're not creating, and building relationships with. So for me, what I would do is I do exactly what I did, which is, and what I'm going to have to continue to do because we applied for that account to start going live, and then they changed it to 5,000. So actually today I'm turning on another follower campaign just to make sure we hit 5,000 over the next week. Depends on your budget. You can make it really, really cheap and you can go worldwide. You can target the entire world and you'll get like followers for like the trick. If you want to get to 5,000, care about the quality of those followers, turn on ads, set it to worldwide, and you'll get like people from India and Bangladesh and Singapore and random places throughout the world, right? And you'll get followers for pennies on the dollar, 5 cents, 5 cents. It's 5 cents a follower. You need 5,000 followers. You pay 250 bucks. Me personally, I don't want that, right? Because I don't want those people showing up on my live saying, do you ship to this country? It's like, no, we don't ship to this country. So all of mine are US based followers who are interested in apparel and handbags. So I'm paying a higher amount per follower, 60 to 70 cents per follower. But when I go live, I know that's good quality people that notification is being sent out to. Does that make sense? So it's six of one, half dozen of another, right? It's like, which one do you want? Me personally, I'd rather have quality. Now, to get the 5,000, the initial, yeah, I can, I cared about quality. Now, to the 5,000, I'm probably going to do a mix, right? Because it's like, from a cost effective standpoint, probably don't want to spend more than another 1,500 bucks to get the 5,000. So I know that if I maybe open it up maybe to Canada, maybe all of the US, but like don't have any like restrictions on income. Like I have income restrictions, like there's a lot that you can do to really target a really good audience that has discretionary income, undisposable income for your offer. But hopefully that answers the question around how do you get followers? Pay for ads. Pay for ads. Okay. Any other questions come in? Yeah, Chrissy. So that's a great question. So we sell clothes and we sell a lot of scarves, like our Hermes scarves. We do have clothing. So I don't want to dismiss that we have clothing. We sold a really ugly sweater the other day. That was our Hermes sweater, is like the most ridiculous. Listen, I don't get it. I don't get some of the clothing side of things for the most part. So I'm not going to say that I'm an expert at that. What I can say is this. I do have friends in the space who are also part of the beta for handbags who are also a little bit more of a mix of consignment. So primarily clothing. And it's the same thing. It's you want to showcase, and you'll see it on Posh, and you'll see it on TikTok. Like go find people who are going live, who are doing doing keywords like consignment live consignment. Like I look at all my competitors. Like I see what they're doing, how they're running their shows. I get ideas. I like, ooh, I like that, but I don't like that particularly for my brand. But how can I implement this kind of idea into my show? And it's the same thing. You want to try it on. You want to showcase it. People want to see it. So if you've got, and you can make shows. You can make shows about certain topics. So for instance, we make shows about. It could be like all about Louis Vuitton. It could be a Louis Vuitton show, right? As the emphasis doesn't mean we still don't have in our showcase other brands, but everything that they see on screen is all about Louis, right? Or Gucci, vice versa, right? For you on general consignment clothing, it would be the same thing, right? Um, it's it's the same thing for Facebook Lives, right? There's actually a really good app that we're using that helps us go live. It's the same thing. So you can go live from IG and it will stream to both Facebook and Instagram at the same time. I can do a follow-up and send this as a resource. I don't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but we're using it for our IG and Facebook Lives. So you want to go, the key takeaway I want for people in general consignment or more clothing focus is you got to show up live with people. And then we've learned a lot, like how we run our shows in the past, how we show our bags. We have music in the background, the lighting, we have designed and redesigned and redesigned and redesigned our look and feel of our room and the background and the color palette and all of that probably 5 or 6 times over 10 months. Right. So like there's a lot of learning, but you don't learn unless you go live. Right. And you're going to have some shows that are duds. I've had shows where I've sold absolutely nothing in 3 hours. Okay. I just want to prepare you for that. But then we've had shows in 3 hours, we've sold nearly $20,000. Okay. So for general consignment, it's consistency and going live because you get the benefit of the feedback of what people like, what people don't like. Do they like you showing dresses? Do they like you showing t-shirts or jeans or shoes? Maybe a little bit more shoes, right? Like they want to see that maybe there's a show that you focus on a particular style and brand. Like there's a consignment shop that I was actually looking to acquire. It was very much all Lily Pulitzer brand, right? So if you've got all of that stuff, showcase it. Showcase if that's the one brand that you have, showcase the shirts versus the pants versus the sundresses, right? It's the same thing. The product is interchangeable. The concept of going live is the same, right? You need to be live. you need to grow an audience, and you need to sell what people want. That's another thing we've learned. We know what moves fast, right? We know that, I'm not gonna say it on here, but there's certain ones because then it gives it away. But like there's certain products I know that if we get it and it's in good condition, it'll sell within 2 days, 3 days. Okay. But I only know that from going live. So it's the same. So hopefully that encouraged you. It's the same concept on general consignment. I see it. I literally see on TikTok general consignment. They make it more product focused and product centric. It's my feedback there. Cool. SMS and email. So uh, I know I cut out there. Am I back?
Yes.
Okay, sweet. Another big part of the team growth and overall just growth in general was SMS. So when I started, we weren't sending any text messages at all. Okay. So here's a screenshot board. Okay. And this is just over the last 30 days. So you can see here that we've generated roughly about 100,000 in sales over the last 30 days from our text message sequences. Okay. That means people who opted in and then ultimately purchased or came from like our campaigns. Okay. You can see how many net new subscribers we have. We do lose people, right? Like we lost 9% this month. That's okay. That happens. Like we'll probably build a smaller list over time because, we uploaded all of our historical buyers, right? Anybody that ever bought from us. And we reached out to them and said, hey, love to reach out to you, let you know, be the first to know no arrivals and special deals and stuff like that. But you can see here how it breaks. So what does the journey mean? It means like a template. So if somebody, like anybody that's a welcome new subscriber, like how did that sequence work? That sequence worked really, really, really well. You can see here that of anybody who joined as a new subscriber, we generated $24,000 just off of them. So if you got a website, you got a Shopify store, you need to be collecting people's information and asking, like it's very, very simple. Like it pops up, says, hey, get your next, or for you guys, it would be, because they're more consignment based, clothing based, it would be, I have it say, get your first or next bag for 10% off. For you to be your first or next order, keep it more general, right? For 10% off by opting in. And then I have language when they opt in, it says, this only applies to those who opt in to SMS as well. So they have to opt in SMS, and the way that they get the 10% discount and the code for it is, guess what? They actually have to click the button to get it via SMS, not via email. Okay, so I actually get their email and their SMS. Now there is a follow-up. Some of them will give their email and not their phone number because people are more protective of their phone number than they are their email. Okay, but this shows you that like 10 months ago, this was not in place, right? Now, is there some attribution here? Attribution meaning, is this platform giving itself credit for sales that probably would have happened otherwise? Yes, they definitely are. But I would still say that we do feel the lift. I do see when specific codes are used, and I can say that that's 100% SMS. That's a follow-up from SMS, and we got that person because of the abandoned cart sequence, specifically from SMS and not email. Okay, and so even if this was only an extra $30,000 or $40,000 of real, true incremental sales, I'll take it. I don't know about you, an extra $1,000 a day, take it up at whatever channel, and let's figure out how we can do that, right? I want to stack these wins on top of each other, and that's how you get the compound growth of being more than a double increase in under a year, is because we grew in social and social selling, right? We increased our website conversion through SMS and, going to get the email here in a second, through email as well, right? And then we rebranded. I don't only had time to talk about the rebrand of the website. We rebranded the website too, right? To look more elevated, look more professional, right? So we've done a lot in just 10 or 11 months that are just all things you probably know you need to do. You just got to go and execute on it and hire the team that helps you execute on it. Because I can't do all this by myself. It's impossible. I have to have a team that's able to do that. So on the email front, it's the same thing. I've circled here, attributed revenue over the last, so June 18th through June, through today. Updated these screens for you guys, so you're not getting old data. So $94,000, $95,000 in attributed email sales over the last 30 days. Okay. So if you add those two numbers together, you can kind of see where we're sitting for revenue. Like we're on pace to probably do $6 or $7 million this year. Okay. From a business that was doing 2.5 to 3 a year. I took over. Okay. So it's more than double. It's more than double, but the 135% growth. And that's before we open up any location. That's before we add whatnot, before we add Poshmark. We just relaunched eBay. So I don't even have marketplaces listed on here because we hadn't really been listing on marketplaces. We're actually back on eBay now, and we've done 20,000 of sales on eBay so far this month. Okay. And so we'll probably build that channel back up to about 60 to 75,000 a month on like our items that are slow movers. We'll make sure to get on that platform. And yes, we'll make less margin on them, but I can't have a bag sitting in inventory for a year. I refuse. I'd rather just make 10 or 20% on it and move it, sit for another year. It doesn't make sense. It's burning cash. I can take that same capital and go buy a bag today that I know is going to sell in 7 or 8 days. So the cash conversion cycle has really been a big learn. I've done everything in 10 months. I've learned how to buy. I've learned how to sell on social selling. I've implemented obviously the marketing stuff that I'm good at and the ad stuff that I'm good at, but I can do that stuff in my sleep. I've learned a lot about consignment. I've learned a lot about, and we've implemented a inventory management system that's semi-custom. About SimpleConsign. So if I ran into that, so like there's a lot of things that we've done, and platforms like SimpleConsign, like way better than building something semi-custom. I can tell you that right now. So having something that allows you to have one place where you get interface so you can get out to multiple channels is super, super, super important. It streamlines your time, energy, and effort and lets you scale through just having more efficient growth there. So I think those are the key components. I didn't want to, we're already at, 40 minutes. I guess what questions do you have? I could talk anything. I could talk more about SMS. I could talk more about email. I could talk more about, the ads that we've done. I didn't even pull up the Facebook ads. We have Facebook ads that we're running as well to get people to just engage with the brand. Oh, another cool thing. We have this thing on our foot traffic to the store. I can see how much foot traffic we get in the store every day too, and see what our conversion is, because our point of sale system and our online system are all the same at Shopify. Okay. So that was one thing I simplified, because we were on Clover. Clover is a nightmare. Okay. If you're on Clover, please get off. It's a black box. Shopify is much better. It's much more integrated. Not that there's shade. I mean, I'm sure there's ways around it, but for me personally, it was difficult. So we went to Shopify POS. So I can see our point of sale sales for the day, and I can see how much foot traffic we got in a day, and I can see how much, if we got 400 people that came in over a week and we had 40 orders, that means we converted 10% of our in-store traffic into a sale. That's amazing, right? Because we're tracking it. We actually put this little magnet on the door. So when somebody opens and walks through the door, it's like an infrared conditioning element that every time somebody walks, it tries to deduplicate them. So like if somebody, enters and then leaves, obviously it doesn't count it twice, right? You don't want that. So it picks up on that. So that's a really cool stat for, my sales floor people. So it's like, hey, listen, do you think we can get our conversion from 10% to 12%? Out of 400 people that walked in, instead of 40 orders, how do we get 48 orders? How do we get those 8 extra orders? And if your extra orders are worth, for me in store, our average order value is about $1,200 instead of online, which is about $800. So I know that extra 800 or extra 8 sales in a week at $1,200 in store is extra almost 10 grand in sales. You do that every week of the month, that's extra $40,000, right? So there's always these little pieces for each department that I give them, right? So there's that. Any questions? There's just so many. I could talk an hour on each one of these topics. So
There's
Just
been a
trying to,
lot of great information and tips, Chris. Thank you.
awesome.
If anyone has any additional questions, please put them in the chat. Otherwise, everyone get a couple minutes back in their day.
So I'm reading back through some of these comments. I will say in relation to going live on the platforms, that if you were to go live and you were like, hey, I only have a certain amount of time to give this a go. So I would give you best practices are, if I was only to go live, let's say 10 hours a week, right? Let's say you only have 10 hours to dedicate to it. I would go live Wednesday night, Friday night, Saturday night, or Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And I would go live between 7 and 11, or even 9 to 12. Like our Saturday night show is from 9 until 1:30 in the morning. Okay. We're not open on Sundays. So that crew knows and they're also, I think they're also off on Mondays. So they stay up late and kind of like bartender hours, right? But that show on Saturday night, averages around like $2,000 in sales per hour. Whereas our average show, I said earlier, is like 800. So it's like a sweet spot time. So it's worth the energy to do it at that time of day and time of night, because more people are going to be on TikTok. They're going to be on Instagram. They're going to be on Facebook Live. They're going to be at home scrolling, going to bed, hanging out, right? If you're doing, I've done it on Sundays. Sundays are okay. I joke with people, like the Sunday scaries, going back to their job, like, let's give them some retail therapy for the new week. That works. People get chuckles out of that. But I would go live Wednesday, Friday, Saturday between 9 and 12, 8 and 11. That's when you're going to get most bang for your buck, because you're going to get the West Coast people getting off of work, and you'll get the East Coast people going to bed, and then everything in between. I would do from a platform perspective, and I would start on TikTok. I think Poshmark, if you've got clothing stuff, more consignment, works really well on Posh as well. Posh is a great platform for that. Just to answer the question around general and normal consignment with moderate brands. I would say, Juliana, for being overwhelmed, this is a lot to do in 10 months. I would say that's why I spent so much time on the live selling. If there's anything that you can do over the next 6 months, make live selling your top priority. Live selling is not going to go away. QVC and HSN are still around for a reason. Okay. People like to be sold stuff in person, right? They like to be sold that way. And so if I was to pick the small hinge that swings the big door for you, that's going to give you the biggest bang for buck. Don't add SMS, don't add email, don't work on your website. Like, you don't worry about ads to get people to that stuff. That's stuff after the fact, when you get a little bit more cash flow. If you're just starting out, go live. Go live. Okay. Buy products, source good products, right? And then showcase those products through some type of live selling, TikTok in particular. Okay. And here's the thing. You have to have a TikTok shop to still go live. You can go live and direct people to your website in your bio. That's not the ideal solution, but you can still have a show and people will ask, well, how do I buy? And you say, well, click on my profile and go. It'll be a link to my website, and you can direct people to your website. That's why the website, it would be somewhat important for live selling, is that people can buy from you. They have to have some way to buy from you. So simplification with all these tactics and low-hanging fruit items is just go live and figure out which platform works for you. I would do, if you got opportunity to do 3 shows a week, I would do 2 on TikTok and 1 on Posh. That's how I would do it. That's how I would start. And then just go live consistently. You got to do it live at the same time. Give it 4 or 5 weeks of going live at the same time, every time, regardless of the results, because you will not build an audience if you're not consistently showing up. Okay? Could you imagine trying to sell stuff at a store and you never open the doors? Like, it's the same thing. It's literally the same thing, but it's the online version of that. Does Shopify allow you to enable SMS messaging through their platform? So the SMS that I'm using is called Attentive. Can you type that out for me? Someone, Attentive? Oh, actually, everyone, Attentive. I'm not gonna lie, they're not cheap. It's probably better if you have a little bit more history of buyers and you have a list. If you got 10,000 or 15,000 people on a list, it would make sense to use Attentive. Attentive is, if you go to any site, once you see Attentive, you'll go to any site that's like looks decent and it looks like a solid brand, they're using Attentive. It's literally the #1 SMS platform in the market. And the reason I like it is when I uploaded my list, one of the #1 concerns, sorry about that, concerns with SMS is litigators, right? So you'll get people who specifically, if you text them, they'll litigate you. Well, Attentive has a list because they're the #1 platform. They have a list of people that are litigators or known litigators, and they'll exclude them from your list for you, which is massive. That's so huge, right? So you don't have to run not SMSing people who are on do not call lists, stuff like that. They can help you cull that list a little bit better. That's super important. All right, any other questions before we hop off? That's it. Tried to answer all the questions that I could. Try to keep it
No,
simple.
this
This
has
is
been
why I didn't,
wonderful.
this is why I didn't try to make it really long, because I want to simplify. There's lots of ways, and people are going to be at different stages, right? Like you might already have some of this in place, right?
Right.
You might already have some SMS and email in place. If you've got something in place, great. Focus on something else that can win for you. So more than happy if you guys have thoughts, post this, or you watch this back. Can't even speak. You watch this back, and you need clarification. I'm more than happy to answer any questions, or you can get a hold of me directly as well. I don't care. Like, just reach out. More than happy to hop on a call and tell you, share with you what I think the number you need to do for your business based on the stage that you're at. Like, I walked into a business that was already further along, right? It already had some core team members in place, already had some elements in place, and then I was able to just kind of come in. I get that. I didn't just open a consignment store or buy a consignment store that only had 2 employees and we like just blew up. I walked into 17 members, 18 members, and now we're at 23, right? Full time. So we've grown, and I have a unique experience. I get all of that, but my unique experience can help you for whatever stage you're in. I've been in all the stages. That's the beautiful thing. So if you're stuck somewhere, if you're stuck somewhere and you feel stuck somewhere, and you're I'm more than happy to provide an outside perspective on what I think would be the most important bang for your buck, time and energy as well.
Thank you so much, Chris. And everyone, when we follow up, we will share Chris's contact details for you to follow up with any questions. All right. Thanks, everyone. This was wonderful. And Chris, thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, guys.
All right. Have a